Hi, my name is Jared. These are my notes on building the Ascent clock. First thing I want to talk about is gluing. Glue looks like crap when you apply stain or varnish over it. So the thing to do is pre-stain and pre-varnish parts before assembly. Glue that gets squeezed out onto a varnish surface is easily wiped off using damp Q-tips and damp rags. Now if you put varnish on the gears and you slop any varnish on the gear teeth and it dries, you are screwed. Your gears will jam. You can't really sand the dried varnish off without screwing up the tooth geometry. So when you apply tongue oil or varnish to a gear, use a Q-tip with varnish, damp with varnish, and trace around the teeth without squeegeeing the varnish off the Q-tip. If you get any varnish on the teeth, immediately clean it off with a multitude of Q-tips damped with paint thinner until every trace of wet varnish has been removed. Vow to be more careful. You need a small brush for applying glue. When you apply glue to a part, you paint it on with a brush and make the glue layers thin towards the edge of the part. Getting the right amount of glue takes practice. If you use too much glue, it will ooze out all over the place and make a mess that you likely won't have time to clean because you're in the middle of a glue-up. Second reason for not putting on too much glue is that parts will float on the glue to the point where lining up parts becomes a nightmare. Kaizen glue gets tacky as the moisture from the glue dissipates into the wood. If the wood is saturated from too much glue, then the glue will not tack up, so you might as well be putting grease on the parts. Since it takes hours to glue up all the parts, you will find that the glue on your brush and your tray is drying out. The trick is to have a bowl of water sitting by for cleaning your brush. So you've glued together two parts. Are you ready to put the clamp on? No, you are not. You must wait 10 to 15 minutes before you put the clamps on, or the parts will shift when you clamp them, especially true when using spring clamps. In fact, you waited 10 minutes, then you clamped them and you came back, the parts had shifted. You probably used too much glue. You might also need to be more careful using the clamp jaws and keeping them more parallel. Moral of the story is watch for parts shifting like a hawk. Now a suggestion to the person who designed the kit. There are many places, like behind gears and behind the clock face, where you can put tiny holes. You push tiny nails through these tiny holes and parts will be perfectly aligned. Don't get symmetric when placing these holes. That way you will take all the guesswork out of matching the parts that need to be glued. Okay. Now let's show you how much glue you should be using. Now this is different than doing a glue up in a cabinet shop for boards. Then you want glue to ooze out all over the sides and stuff. But that's a different story. That glue all gets removed with scrapers. That's probably a little too much glue, so we'll remove just a little bit of it. Now start in the middle. Maybe just another drop, but not much more. This is about all the glue you really need. Yeah, cooperate now. Yeah, just a little teeny bit more. Now keep a bowl of water around, throw your brush in when you're not using it. That's about the right amount of glue. And notice how I stopped shy of the edges? And that'll keep glue from squeezing out when you clamp it. I'm not going to actually clamp this piece right now. Okay. Now that I've shown you that, let's look at the book they give you. It's pretty good. The book overall is pretty good. But there's some clarifications here and there that I'd like to talk about. And some little helpful tips. Okay. First thing I recommend is when you get your kit, label the numbers next to the parts. That'll save you a lot of time instead of like hunting through 3 boards looking for a particular part. Now I'll skip over to page 10. Okay, This is one of the first parts they really ask you to make. This is easy to get wrong, and I'll tell you why. This part can be put in wrong. It can be put in 90 degrees. Very easy to put it in wrong. This part is also easy to put in upside down. So we'll walk over in the next video to the camera and I'll show you the proper orientation of these parts. You can get it from looking at this picture, but you have to be oh so careful. One thing that will help you a lot is to, in your book, label this as the top and this is the bottom. This is the front. When I say front, I mean that's what you see when you're looking at the clock. And then oh, I'm sorry, this is not the front. The front's this way, and the back is this side. This book is actually upside down in my reference frame. Okay. Let's flip to the next page. This part is also easy to get wrong. Put it together wrong. And we'll walk over to the clock and I'll show you a little more detail. Again, I would label this. This is up, this is down. This is front, and this is back. So when you're looking at it, you would see this part as being in the front of the clock. That's like standing in front of the clock, looking at the clock. This will be the front, this will be the back. Okay, now, these three holes have to go through. They have to align up through all three pieces that you're gluing together, because a string has to go through here. Okay, then the other thing you'll find out is that you have two posts. One is shorter than the other. The short one would go on the right side, the long one would go on the left side. The other thing to notice is that this post is closer to the back of the clock than this one. And again, like I said, we'll walk over. Alright, and it helps to put labels on these parts too. This is the top, this is the bottom, top, bottom. I would definitely label those. Okay, what page do we have now? 14, 13 and 14. Label top and bottom, right, I got that. Okay, now for assembling this part. First thing you want to do is align the part I labeled as 1, right here, with the grain of the wood. So tack it down, flip it over, make sure that it's lined up properly with the grain of the look, or your bob will look funny if it's askew. Let that part dry. The second thing to do is to take the pendulum arm and put a layer of tape around it. Just one on each side is good enough. Then you plunk it down into the slot and put the second part in. Now why did I do that? The reason why is when you pull this part out, you want there to be a little bit of a gap between the part 1 and part 2 on both sides, or your pendulum arm won't slide in and out easily. So you've put the clamp on here. Now pull that part out. Don't let it dry in there. If there's any glue oozed out, it will cement this part to the board, and you really don't want that. Now you can pull your tape off. Again, use painter's tape, so the stuff will actually come off. Okay, here's another detail right here. You can glue this piece onto here, but when I assembled the clock, I didn't glue this part and this part together. The clock works just fine without having done that, and I want the option of being able to adjust the pendulum for being parallel with the wall. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, this can be a little confusing. As you're staring at the part here, okay, you got the little gear here. The front string goes from 12 feet. You keep winding it till you only get 16 inches. The back string, you leave 6 feet sitting out. I thought that was a little confusing when I looked at it. Okay, now, this is the only part I ever had to glue in the clock. It gets a fair amount of torque on it. The rest of the parts in the clock I use all friction fit, and I recommend that you do the same. You can't really take apart a clock and repair it once it's been glued. And friction will do the job, so just use friction. Okay, now on page 25, I would wait on this. Don't put these little pawls in yet. Wait till page 30 before you put these in. It's possible to glue these in the wrong way. Doesn't look like it, but it is. And it'll become more obvious when you actually get to the steps on page 30. Okay. Now, we're going to show you a different method for installing gears on arbors. I really don't recommend pounding on the ends of wooden dowels. It smashes out the ends of the dowels. Just not a good way to go. So I'll show you another technique for that. Okay, now you're doing the layout for your gears. Turns out these are to scale. So you can lay the dowel right on top of the piece and do your marks right off the dowel. And that works just fine. That's true of, and I would also label them as left and right. Just put a small little L and a small little R on the very ends. Use felt tip pen, don't use a pencil. Erase is too easy. I mean, it gets rubbed off too easily. And that'll save you a lot of confusion because you put the part down and you orient it. And some of these things are not symmetrical. This one looks pretty symmetrical, but some of them on the other pages are not. So label R and L. So when you put it back down on the table, you'll know which end to put the gear on and where to put the spacers in. Okay. I would also get a piece of tape and write R and L and stick them on your, what do you call that thing? The anchor. What do they call it? Escape lever? Yeah, it's also called an anchor because of its shape. Okay, now we've hit page 30. When you go stuffing this gear in, you'll see that the ratchet pawls, or whatever they're called, will have to fit into the ratchet. And if you don't have them glued in the right way, of course it won't work. Okay, I think that about covers any changes I would make in the book as far as labels. Label stuff, that'll help a lot. Okay, now let's do another tape for the next one.